Oh man, I that little intro is all I need sometimes to make me feel and smile, just make me feel great. Love it. Thank you so much for being with us today. Welcome back. If you're joining us live, thank you for being here. I already see familiar faces in the chat. Love to see this. As folks are chiming in, we love to put up your questions and your comments. And this is a great opportunity to answer some questions. Um, we just had a question come through about CEUs. And yes, we offer a certificate today. Whether or not your school honors that as a CEU is something I can't answer. But what I do want you to do is either scan the QR code or use the link in that comment today. You can jump into our Mobile Minds platform where you're going to be able to get an opportunity to download today's certificate and also earn a fun little badge. And we'll share the secret code with you at the end of the webinar. So if you're watching the recording, don't worry, you'll get that code at the end as well. And you'll be able to download and access that for a few months. So I'm going to leave those up here on the screen while I kind of introduce what we've got going on today. I've got two amazing individuals backstage, and one of them is Frankie. Frankie's going to be supporting us on production today. He's the one who puts up all these fun titles. And I've got Julian as well, one of our teaching and learning coordinators. He's going to be talking to you today about this idea around accessibility. So I want to start things off by kind of asking you a question. I'm going to tell you a little story. There's a really fantastic TED Talk out there called The Myth of Average. All right. And in it, they really debunk this idea that designing things for the average person doesn't really work because there is no average person. So as you start to listen to today's webinar, I want you to think about this theme. If we design things for people at the edges, right, the students at the edge of the classroom who need the most supports to participate in this learning environment, we actually do everyone a service. Everyone benefits when we design tools for those people at the edges. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about a time when you used something that wasn't designed for you to use. All right, I'll give you an example. My dad is left-handed, and if you ever hand him a pair of scissors that are right-handed, you will hear a diatribe around society's unacceptance of people with left hands. So in the chat, if you're thinking about this, I want you to tell me, how has it made you feel when you had to use something that wasn't designed for you to use? All right, how did that make you feel? And think about that as we talk about this topic that we're going to jump into today with Julian. I'm going to bring him up on the stage so we can get this thing kicked off. Julian, how you doing, man?
I'm doing amazing. I'm doing amazing. How are you doing?
Yeah, fantastic. Today we're going to be talking about, really, this is part two, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to continue that conversation around some of the accessibility tools that the students are going to have at their disposal when teachers are using 𝘁𝗵𝗁. And then we'll also look at some really great tools that the teachers are going to utilize to increase their efficiency.
Love that. Yes, absolutely. So be thinking a little bit about those moments in your life when you were using something that wasn't designed for you and really how that might have made you feel. Go ahead and throw that in the chat if you'd like. And then also, I want you to think about your students and what these tools might do for the students these weren't designed for, right? Because what we've heard from our community is that oftentimes, while these tools were designed for students at the edges of the classroom, they're actually really great for everyone because they're creating a lot more independence in our learners. All right, so let's jump right in to what we've got going on today. We're going to change it up, that banner, and let you know if you would like to access Julian's doc today, this exact thing that he's sharing, and follow along and use some of the tools. Check it out, Frankie. Thank you so much. That is the link to go to meetkammy.com/unstoppable2. All right, I'm going to zip it, Julian. The show is yours, my friend. Take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much, David. Yes. So as we talked about, we're going to continue that conversation that we had in the last webinar. If you missed it, you can go back and watch it. But we had a great conversation around accessibility features in our Understand menu. We were able to go through the first half of them. And so today I'd like to go through the other half and then also, like I was mentioning before, transition into some tools that I think those teachers out there are going to absolutely love when it comes to giving that one-on-one feedback to those students. And meaningful feedback that's actually relevant to the work that they're producing. So very, very excited to show you guys some of those things. If you are joining my document here, you've got my contact information. So if you got any questions about what we went over today, send me an email, right? If you want to book a meeting so I can walk you through something, feel free to use my link. And I can also get you in touch with more people that might be in your region. I can give you some resources. I would love, love, love to continue talking with each and every one of you as you are navigating these things. So like I mentioned before, we went over the translate and the explain tool last time. And so what I'd like to do now is look at the summarize tool, as well as the ability for you and your students to re-level the difficulty of text, right? So giving that ability for you to take the information that's on a page, get the gist of it. We'll talk about why that's valuable, right? Why that might help your students. And then again, we'll look at the capabilities that we have of changing the difficulty for a passage so that students can still access the content. They can get that information, but in a more approachable way. Let's get going here. So I am going to jump into the summarize tool. Okay, now first things first, this is in the context of your lesson, right? So if you particularly, maybe one of the questions after this reading is to summarize the reading. Well, you're probably going to go into feature control and you are going to turn summarize off, right? So as we're talking about these tools, just know that you are at the driver's seat of what tools your students see. So they're in the context of what you're trying to take away from the lesson, what you want your students to gain. And so if it compromises one of the questions, or if it's not particularly aligned with your goal, you have the ability to go in here and customize what tools your students are going to see. And that's why you only see a few tools on your side. You'll notice that before I started our session today, I went in here and sort of customized what I wanted you guys to have access to, just to keep it intentional. So that is a really cool feature that we have here. But let's jump into the summarize tool. Very, very simple to use. Okay, once I have it chosen, I just click on my text and highlight what I want to summarize. I'll just do the whole reading here. And I let go of the mouse and I get that summary. Okay, now again, why might this be valuable? Well, this is in the interest of making sure that students are independent enough that they can achieve these rigorous tasks that we're giving them, right? We don't want to be in a situation where we're continually dropping our expectations so that we can, make sure that everybody's on page. What we would love to see is that we are giving tools to students so that they can achieve those rigorous tasks that we are trying to ask them to do. And so in the interest of that, imagine I was giving them this reading and I asked them a very specific question, right? What are 3 particular causes of the Dust Bowl? What are 3 particular effects of the Dust Bowl? Or even if this was some sort of historical source, asking them to find specific pieces of evidence. Well, if that's the goal, then maybe giving them the ability to summarize that reading is going to give them the capacity to dive deeper, right? If they understand the overall concepts, if they get the beginning and end of this whole journey, well, then now, again, they have that understanding to where they can focus on those minute details that you as the teacher are asking them to do, right? Another example. What if you're doing a research project and students are going through various sources, trying to find sources that go with the thesis that they came up with or the topic that you assign them? Well, if they have the ability to summarize those sources, how much quicker are they going to be able to vet them to see if they will work, right? If it's a source that's going to work for their essay or not. They don't have to comb through it and then, spend 20, 30 minutes and then finally determine this isn't going to work for me. These are tools that are intended to increase that efficiency, but still put the onus on the students to do the work, right? They're still having to use those sources that they choose, but the summarize tool can be used in various ways to just help those students get that broad understanding, or again, increase that efficiency in their research process. You'll notice some new features here, okay? You might not see these on your end, but these are coming. We have now embedded, or we will soon release the embedded version of this summarize tool where the students can change the difficulty level of this production. So if this summary is maybe too wordy for a certain student, they can drop it down using this plus or minus tool. And we are so excited to see these understand tools being merged together, and we're probably going to see more and more of this happening here. But the ability for the students to not only summarize the reading, but put it in terms that they understand. This is something that. Yeah.
Sorry, and Julie, I don't want to cut you off, but I do want to make a quick plug. For anyone who's in our community, you have got in your inbox right now a link to the community meeting we had yesterday. And there's actually some folks in the chat watching now that were there yesterday. We showed live some of the updates that are coming to these menus. And so if you want to get a sneak peek of that, jump into your email. If you're in the community, if you're not in the community, sign up. You'll get a copy of that recording if you sign up as a 𝘁𝗵𝗶 collaborator or a 𝘁𝗵𝗶 Book Creative collaborator. So very excited for some updates coming soon. Sorry, Julian, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just really excited. We had a great meeting yesterday.
Yes, yes. Get in that community, get involved in that way. Like he said, you'll be the first to know about these things and you know, collaborate with that community as well. Awesome. So we also talked about in our last webinar some of the accessibility features that are built into these understand menu tools, right? Oh, Stella, a great example. It could be used to show social studies how to summarize the text through output analysis. Sometimes quality, critical thinking skills, and agency override time-saving priorities. Yes, absolutely. I can be that way too. I know that I'm a history buff, so I can spend too much time focusing on details that really aren't relevant to what I should be doing. And so focus, intentionality. Yeah, I love that.
That might be the word of the day, intentionality. Because when you were showing that the feature controls, like intentionality is a big part of why we built that in. So love that.
Yes, yes. Just a reminder here of these accessibility features that we do have embedded in all of the understand menu tools, the ability to have these read aloud, right? So again, what you'll notice is that we're trying to make sure that no matter what type of learner you have, they're going to be able to use these tools effectively. So if they want to have that read aloud, they just simply click that button. Whatever voice they have chosen from the read aloud tool is going to carry over, and they're going to be able to get that audio production from what they got here.
Love that.
Another one, you can stitch this to the margin, right? So again, if the goal is for the student to really dive deeply on the source itself or the reading itself, then maybe stitching this summary in the side so that they have the summary and they don't lose it as soon as they click away from the summary tool. Well, now they can refer back to that summary as they're trying to comb through the source. And again, this is just one example. Think about your content. Think about how you might utilize this tool for your particular students. But the intention is for there to be that ability to stick it in the side so that they don't lose it, and then they can engage with whatever task they have going on. And that exists for all the tools, right? So translate, explain. We'll see it on the releveling as well. You can take it and really make sure that the students are working at their best, and they don't lose the great things that our tools are giving them as they, you know, go to another tool. Another thing here, and again, we might not use this too much in this tool, but just want to make sure that we remember that it is there, is we have the copy response to clipboard. So as, whoops, let me highlight this again. So you've got that ability to copy this to your clipboard. If you want to take that summary and bring it somewhere else, you can do that. Copy and paste is going to give you that ability to do that. Again, this is probably more applicable to things like Translate or the releveling tool that I'll show you in just a moment, where you can create a whole nother copy of a reading in another language, or a whole nother copy of a reading in another reading level. So just want to make sure that we're aware that that is there for us to use. But I want to show you one more tool before we move on to the teacher side. And something that's really, really going to be useful for our teachers is the releveling tool, right? With this tool, we can change the difficulty of a reading passage so that a student can actually engage with the content that's on the particular selected passage, instead of just a summary of the whole thing or an explanation of it. What if we want to still get the overall idea of this reading, but we just want to make it a little bit more approachable, right? We have the releveling tool. Okay, now these are not 𝘆𝚁 levels. These are not actual grade levels. And this is probably the number one question we get, you know, is this 𝘆𝚁 level 5? No, these are just points of difficulty that wherever you start from, you'll be able to move down or move up, right? So if I move down a couple levels, you'll notice that the sentences get simpler, right? It's trying to choose maybe complicated words or complex words, and how can we simplify that for the students and still keep that foundation, right? So California was not the promised land of the migrants' dreams is transformed to California was not the good place that migrants hoped for. Same idea, just a little bit more approachable. And so as your students are using this, this is the teacher-facing version, the releveling tool. So you can, again, create a whole different version of the reading that's a little bit more approachable. You can stitch these as comments in the margin beforehand if you want to offer these as an option for your students to say, hey, here's an easier version on the right, but here's our original on the left. But your students can also do this as well. Right. Your students,
especially if you've turned those options off for the students, but you know that there's some scaffolding that needs to take place, you can pull that in yourself to keep the students, again, the intentionality of the work there. Love that.
Yeah, no, 100%. You know, we don't want you to lose out on the tools just because you locked it for the students. You know, if you think that these tools are still going to provide support, but you don't want to give them the access, you know, a student might love the translate tool so much that they just spend the entire day translating everything on the page, right?
Yeah, and the languages that they don't speak.
Yeah, exactly. Just because it's so cool. And so you can turn it off, but still provide that translation by using that comment to the side button. That's a great point. So student-facing version, it's this same technology, except the students are going to have a plus or minus, right? And so the original will be right at the current in the middle, and then the students can just continue to hit that minus button until they get to a level that they are comfortable with. And what's so great about this is that when we think about our English learners, they're so motivated to get to that grade level, right? Maybe they do when they first join the class. They need to go 5 levels easier just to be able to understand what's going on. But at least they can participate in those class discussions, right? At least they can still move forward with the assignment that's going to come later because they found a version that's approachable. But that motivation to get to grade level is going to be there. And so hopefully with that agency, right, by the end of the semester, they're going closer and closer to that grade level.
Yeah, and I like too that the levels are consistent so that over time they get their own measurement there. It's like, well, I started the year at -6 and now I'm at -4. So there's clearly some advancement because I know in language learning it's really hard to feel and see your progress. So very cool. I love this idea that you're tracking that over the year.
Yes, yeah, and that can be, you know, actual tracking where you're writing these things down, or that can be more of the self-regulated where the student is just proud of themselves and now they're a little bit, you know, closer to that current version. So again, all those same things are there, copy and paste, read aloud, you'll notice that throughout. But I just wanted to make sure that you guys got a good look between last webinar and this webinar at those understand menu tools, how they can help your students, and how, again, even if you turn them off for your students, as Hodler mentioned, you can still use the tools to provide those supports in a very intentional, that's the word of the day, and catered way to what you're trying to accomplish here. So Hotler's got a question for everybody in the chat here.
Yes, and I also want to give a shout out to Stella. She noted that, hey, some of this came up in my certification course that I finished just this morning, which is incredible. Thank you, Stella, for taking that. If you're wondering where to find that certification course, you can find all of that information when you're inside of 𝘵𝗵𝘁. So that's kind of why we're using that as a learning hub, because you can get your certification or your certificate of attendance for today, and then you can also jump out and continue the learning, continue exploring what it is that we have to offer. So keep checking back in that 𝘵𝗵𝘁 because we are hot on it to add new content to that space. And yeah, thank you, Frankie, for putting that link back up there. That will take you directly to today's event in 𝘵𝗵𝘁. So, all right. So a question that I want to pose to you right now, well, Julian's kind of going to do some screen share. I think you're going to show sort of what this looks like from the LMS side of things. What excited you today? What did you see just about those two different tools? I know that we talked a little bit about some of the differentiation that can happen, and we talked a little bit about the intentionality of a lesson and feature controls, but what excited you about what you saw, and how do you see that fitting into your practice in your classroom? So take a moment. If you want to throw that over in the chat, we'd love to hear your responses there. I'm going to put Julian's another screen up here. What are we looking at, Julian?
So I want to give you guys a chance to see what this looks like when you're working through your LMS system. And we won't get a chance to go through all of the benefits of, assigning 𝘁𝗵𝗶 assignments through your LMS, like getting class view, where you're seeing all your students in one place. I can really quickly preview that for you, just so you see that immediate benefit of saying, hey, look at this is just 3 sample students, but you can have your entire class here and be giving individualized feedback, be grading at the top, using any of these 𝘁𝗵𝗶 tools to drop comments, to drop little pointers, to put shapes on the page, to give hints to your students. You can really engage with them in this class view. But what I want to focus on is feedback, right? We've talked about how AI has helped our students with the understand menu in an intentional way, but how can this technology help you as the teacher do that as well? Okay, and so we're going to look at our AI assisted feedback tool. And this is going to give you a very, very great way to give catered feedback directly to what the students are doing in their assignments. Okay, so let's start by looking at this sample student, Andrew. And if I go ahead and click on their work in Google Classroom, right, that 𝘁𝗵𝗁 file, as long as I have this grade with 𝘁𝗵𝗁 checked, I can do all of the work within Google Classroom. However, I can also click on that purple 𝘁𝗵𝗶 button and go into 𝘁𝗵 and be giving feedback to the student through 𝘁𝗵. Either way, it's going to update on the student's documents, and they'll be able to get that from you. Okay. So where do I find this AI assisted feedback? Well, what this tool does is it provides catered comments based on what the student is producing. And so this lives within the comment tool, right? We've got the text comment, we've got voice comment, video comment. And so generate feedback is going to be the second one on the page. And so I just want to wrap us up today. We got about 10 minutes left, and I want to give you some examples about how this tool might be useful for you. You click on it, you're able to customize the grade level, the language. You're able to tell it specifically what pages do I want you to base this feedback on. And so for this particular example, I'm just going to focus on the annotation that the students did. And so I'm going to focus just on page 1. And you'll see here that you have some really cool things that you can add to guide the tool, right? I can add rubrics, I can add standards, I can add a prompt to here, right? And so what I'm going to start with is focusing on this annotation. I'm going to say, give 3. How about that? We'll be specific here.
Nice. Be intentional today.
Yes.
I love too that you can upload a rubric. You can give it, more information and more, reference information that you would need. That's a fantastic feature. We see that used all the time in like the inline chats.
Absolutely. And that'll be my next example. You guys will see how once you do add those standards, I'm going to add the California Social Studies standards to my next one, and you'll see how it changes the way that they give those. So give 3 positive affirmations on what the student chose to annotate. Keep it to the most impactful annotations, right? We don't want it to just be giving a comment on the date that they highlighted. We want to make sure that this feedback is catered to what they're doing in a meaningful way. So we're going to keep it to the most impactful annotations, and let's see what we get here.
I love this. I feel like we should start a whole bank of really great prompts for the AI comment. I just have the quick copy and paste it, and that's fantastic.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. Especially once you get familiar with what this tool is producing, and it's just like any tool, right? The prompting is something that evolves over time. So having a base of that would be awesome. But here's what it looks like, right? The reason it says approve here is that these are just drafts, right? These are just comments that are saying, hey, here's what we came up with based on what you wrote. So the first one here, highlighting the key figure, Captain Thomas Preston, is a great start. But these ones are actually looking at some of the things that they highlighted in the document. Excellent job identifying Preston's concern about provocation. This shows you're thinking about the emotional and psychological factors. Noting the increasing size of the mob is important for understanding the escalating tension and the threat. So again, you can not only approve these comments, but if you like most of it, but you want to change some of it, you can approve that comment and then hop in there and make an edit. But even just with those 2 comments, this might have taken me, 5 to 10 minutes to come up with what to say, really figure out which ones I wanted to highlight. And so even though I can still go in there and make changes and really, make sure that it's what I like, this tool gets us there a lot quicker, right? It gets us to that place where we're giving them meaningful feedback. And then if I want to customize it based on my expertise, of course, you're going to have that option.
Yeah, that's excellent. That personalization is so important. And I love too that it's like everything that AI is spitting out is draft. It's all draft. You need to go in as the educator and make that humanistic call and really add that human layer. You're the one who know the students, so excellent.
Yes. Yeah, and that's something, especially when I'm talking about feature controls, I want teachers to know that they are at the driver's seat, right? And that's also true here. You are the one that has to say, yes, that is an appropriate and relevant comment, and I agree, right? Or you just delete it and you don't use that one. That's totally your call. So that is something I just wanted to show you an example for annotation, right? And so think about, what about the students' actual answers, right? What if I want to give them feedback based on what they're actually writing on the page? And so let's do a quick one here. You know what, for the sake of time, I'm going to drop down to the second page, and I'm going to show you guys what I meant about using those standards. So let's do another prompt here. Give some constructive feedback for just number 10, right? So you can even isolate it to just look at specific questions and not just everything on the page. You notice that I also showed that when I said just give me 3 comments, because if you don't give it, you'll notice that if you don't give it that specific request, you'll have it give you a lot of draft comments, and then that's nice if you want to have that many. But if you're only looking for a couple, you can also add that in. All right. So give some constructive feedback for number 10 based on the analysis skills for grade 9 through 12 in the attached standards. So now I'm going to go grab those standards. Oops. Here, I'm going to delete this here because misplaced that file. But you can attach any file in here and get a very catered specific feedback to that. And so we'll see what it does for number 10.
Fantastic.
Oh, you know what? I made a little mistake there. I didn't tell it what page I was looking at. So let me fix that for us. And that's a good example to show how if you don't give it that number 10, this is what it gives you. So as specific as you can be is great. So let's do this again, number 10.
And folks, if you're out there using these tools and you run into something like what Julian just ran into, where he's like, oh man, if you're not specific enough, you get this extra stuff. If you find something in the tool that you're like, I really wish it did this, or I really would, send us an email. Because this was something that came up last night as well in the community. We are listening to everything that you send us in terms of suggestions and changes and updates and upgrades that you're looking for in here. And so a great way to make sure your voice is heard is to jump into our community, because it gives you a direct line access to someone like myself, Melissa Summerford, who's our community advocate, Julian. You get access directly to us, and then we can run and put that right into our system for updates, because our product team is constantly looking for teachers' opinions on how to improve these tools, because they're all new. AI is new for everyone. So we love to hear your suggestions, your ideas, and I can tell you right now, they make it directly into the app. We are 100% listening to what it is that you need in these tools.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And again, it can be something as simple as just saying, hey, I forgot to tell it, hey, just look at page 4, and now the software is looking at pages 1 through 4. So that's why we saw so many comments come in. But here's the one that I came up with for that number 10 prompt. This is a strong analysis of the document's reliability. You've effectively identified both the strengths and potential biases of Jerome's testimony. To enhance this further, remember, because we wanted that constructive feedback, consider explicitly stating how understanding these biases help us interpret historical events more accurately, right? And one thing I do want to point out, because that can be that might be a little wordy, is you can also tell it, use my previous comments to help set the tone. And so if that is not the way that you would normally speak, and you want to make sure that it's a little closer and a little more authentic to the way that you write, then you can click that box and it'll attempt to do that. But it's really looking deeply at what the students are writing and trying to give not only some positive affirmation, but push them in the right direction so that they can improve as well.
Fantastic. Folks, Julian, I can't say thank you enough. I love when you come on here. You have such a great, fresh perspective, having been in the classroom so recently, and to just be able to share your insights working with students and using these tools, and then working with so many teachers now and seeing the way that these are getting implemented. You just bring such a wealth of understanding and knowledge to this. So hearing lots of folks say thank you in the chat, and I just appreciate everyone who's watching live. Thank you for being here. And if you're watching the recording, thank you for making it this far. Your reward is right around the corner. I'm going to pull Julian's screen off the page here and just share the secret code. This is what everyone's looking for. So there's been links shared in the comment section if you're looking for a link, or you can scan that QR code that's up there at the top if you are watching on your computer screen, and it will take you right into Mobile Minds, where you can use today's secret code to jump in and get that certificate. And then again, access all of that other learning. So really excited that you are here. Julian, I think we've got a third webinar coming up.
We absolutely do. And what we're going to do with this last one is we're going to take the things that we've talked about in the first two, and we're going to bring some teachers in, some classroom experience, and get some testimonies on how teachers that are going through it day to day, how they're using these tools, and you'll get some more specific examples from their lens.
I love to hear that. And we are always looking for your voice inside of these webinars. So if you're interested, if you're out there watching and you say, hey, I want to be that teacher voice on the show next to Julian, why don't you jump into that community or send me an email and dhotler@𝘁𝗵𝗶.com. You can always reach out to us if you've got that excitement in you and you want to get up on the stage and share what you're doing. So the last thing we've done, we've shared that link one more time in the chat, but if you are having any issues with Mobile Minds at all, do not hesitate to fire us an email. Let us know that you're having some trouble and we will get you right to where you need to go. So I want to just say thank you again to Frankie backstage, Julian up here with us on front, and just all of the team members who make these webinars happen. This is a big group team effort. So just absolutely appreciative of everyone who came today and for everyone who made this happen. So until next time, happy teaching and learning, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.